Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Take or Big Take.
I'm Weiren,
I'm Nicholas.
and we are an education lifestyle podcast where each week we discuss a topic and decide whether or not it's interesting, which is,
Hot Take,
or frustrating, which is.
Big Take. Okay,
So for today, we are going to be talking about discussing a topic which is quite on every student's minds at this point in time. We are talking about exam preparation, right? So I don't know. Last time I was just confessing to you, right? Like last time when I was in secondary school in JC, I don't feel myself studying that much.
maybe because you're too smart lah, that's why you don't study lah.
Yeah, but maybe Nicholas, you can share your tips for how you used to prepare for exams last time.
Last time in the past, right? I told this to my students in my class. I told this to my friends and all. They think I'm like borderline radicalized really lah. So I think because I'm a bio graduate, right? So I have this study technique that I sort of like came out by myself lah. All right. So what I do, there's 4 steps. All right. The first one involves, bio has a lot of notes lah. I mean, we cannot deny that there's memorization involved. So I start off first by step 1. I go and memorize the notes. All right, and I'm talking at like uni level kind of notes. There's like intricate biological pathways, and it really takes a lot of time to memorize. So after memorizing, I will then attempt to recreate the notes. I rewrite the notes based off my memory. All right. So at this part, when I tell my students, they think that I'm really like quite crazy already lah. Then I went on to tell them that I will then take whatever I've actually written, I compare with the original notes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's quite hardcore. Okay.
Then after that, I will fill in the blanks of what I've missed out in a different pen or highlighting it, because these are likely the points that has eluded my recreation process. And then I felt like there are probably some important points there. So the last nail to the coffin of this, right? The last portion here is that before I sleep, I will recite that chapter again in my head.
Wow.
Okay, so the thing here is that, bio has complex chapters, so I will purposefully put the toughest chapter as a first chapter for revision. So every night when I sleep, I will recite in chronological order. So by the time I'm done with revision, the toughest chapter, which is the first chapter, I probably have recited like 18 to 20 times already. Yeah. So I think that is going to be quite extreme, I feel.
Yeah.
I don't think mathematics you can do it this way. Right?
Yeah. So when I say I didn't study, or I don't have a particular systematic method of study, it's because last time I was more focused on physics and math. So like for me, it was just like, okay lor, like just sit down and then practice, grind, like buy assessment book, work through the TYS, and then just sit down, expose yourself to as many questions as you can, do prelim papers, just keep doing and doing. It's just that over the years, right? Like I think now looking back, when I think about what's best for my students, I take a look at the assessment books now, and I realize, and of course the prelim papers, and I realize that the questions during the learning phase when you are practicing, isn't exactly scaffolded to the right in the best way for you to facilitate getting used to the topic. So typically an assessment book or a prelim paper will just give you a random assortment of questions, and then you just keep doing. And then if let's say you deal with question type A, all right, and then next you deal with question type B, you don't really solidify your understanding and your procedural awareness of how to solve question type A, right? So for me, when I prepare my material now for the center, what I try to do is I really try to make sure that the sorting is as fine. I try to identify as many question classes as possible, and try to group them together, and at least 5 of one type of question for each topic lah.
So you start with exposure to a question typing, then repeated practice on the same typing to get an experience.
Drilling through that individual question type. So that is what I try to do my best for physics as well as for math lah.
But I do feel like we should agree. I think that for every subject there is some minor nuance on the preparation process, right? So we are not any humanities expert lah, but I was often being told by my humanities teachers back in my secondary school days that it's still a memorization heavy chapter, so you should leave it to the 13th hour before you decide to memorize, because your memory would probably erode, towards the actual test itself. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So actually, I'm more inclined to say the same thing. Like I realized I used to remember that when I was in JC, there were a set of 4 equations that I have to remember, and these are just simple equations. It's not like huge chunks of text or huge definitions. So I had to memorize a 4 set of kinematics equations. All right. So I remember that I always forgot the equation when I was practicing. So what I will do is right before the exam,
You
I
write it
will
out.
take a look. I'll write it out. And recite it to myself many times. Then after that, I go into the exam hall. The first thing I do is just write out those 4 equations on the exam paper.
So that's like a little bit of a cheat sheet kind of.
Yes. So for myself, right, I'm terrible at memory. So on the spot, right, I will try to, even when it comes to definitions, I will try my best to craft out my own definition on the spot. Because I realize, at least for physics, they will try to ask you based off the mathematical the definition is based off the mathematical formula, right? So from the formula, I just try to
But okay, just a
something like
segue.
that.
I'm just so curious that if all these formulas are fundamental to the examinations, so why isn't it given at the front of the script? Just like periodic table for chemistry itself,
Yeah.
it's fundamental. So what are you trying to test? You're trying to test my ability to apply the formulas, or are you trying to test my ability to recite the formula that apply the
There
formula?
are some which are given lah, but there are some which are not.
Okay.
So I think for at least for O and A level physics, they want to test your ability to
Derive. Okay.
To derive all
Okay.
these formulas.
Okay.
Right. So, but of course, when it comes to MCQ, there's no need to derive. Right. You can call out the formula straight away. Yeah. So there's
I like this to be like, if you're a carpenter and then you are tasked to go and do some masonry work, and then you reach on site, you're supposed to craft your own hammer and nail and everything. I thought all these tools should be given, and that the essence of examination should be more on application of the formulas. I mean, that's just me over the years lah.
I agree lah. I agree to a certain extent. I think in, like, let's say H2 math, for example. For H2 math, I think there are a whole bunch of integrals and differentials. And for myself, right, I don't remember every single differential and integral out there. I still need to refer to the formula list. All right, I believe now they call it the MF27. So I always need to refer to the formula list to get like the expansion for exponential, for example, or the expansion for sine or cosine. So another thing that I used to do in uni, right, was one thing that I felt helped myself was I used to make cheat sheets.
And it's legal.
Yeah.
Legal for the examination.
It depends. It depends. Sometimes the professor will be like, "Oh, okay, for this particular exam, I will let you bring in one A4 paper." But I realized that in preparing this cheat sheet, right, I actually am forced to take a look at my notes again, re-look at my notes, and take a thorough look and think, like, oh, okay, will the examiner think that this is important? Will the examiner think that is important? So there is, number one, the act of you re-looking through your notes, and number two, trying to guess what is important in the eyes of the examiner.
So it's a little bit like reverse engineering, right? You
Yes.
are allowed to bring this tool, but in the process of creating this tool, it helps in your revisionary
Yes.
procedures and all.
And nowadays when I teach my students also, I'll tell them like for Sec 1, Sec 2, I'll tell them like, oh, okay, I want you to imagine you have one sheet of A4 paper, maybe one side or 2 sides, right? I want you to be able to cram in whatever you feel is important. So I'll tell them to create this document and then show me. Yeah, so I think it forces them to really take a look at their
Just
notes
curious,
again.
this particular cheat sheet, has it to be vetted by the professor before it can be brought into the exam hall?
For university, no.
So you can
So
draw
we can write whatever we want.
you can draw Pikachu on it even if you want to.
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
mean, but it's a waste of space.
Yeah
lah.
lah, okay.
So for myself, what I used to do, right, I would buy the 0.2 or 0.18 nib just to write
As small
tiny,
as
as
possible.
small as possible on that cheat sheet.
Can you print it out instead? No.
Can.
You can print it as well.
I think can.
Okay.
I think can.
Okay.
Oh, but I mean, I do have certain professors that insisted that it was handwritten as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they will never bat an eyelid and take a look before they let you bring it into the
Yeah,
exam hall.
it's perfectly.
Okay.
It's akin to an open book lah.
Okay. Well, but I mean, when I was in biological sciences in NTU, if there is ever this thing here, to be honest, I think it's as good as them telling me that you can't bring in anything because bio, you know the intricacy of all the molecules and the proteins and all. How can I squeeze that
Okay,
into
cannot squeeze that.
one particular cheat sheet?
Yeah.
I think the act of synthesizing it, I think is more troublesome than actually revising it.
So for me, what I used to do was I used to squeeze in certain important example questions as well as derivations for physics at the very least. Yeah.
So just to shift the conversation slightly, we have been talking about studying techniques and all. So is it really critical that we actually spend time not just studying? And again, for the context of studying, when I was in primary school, before my mom actually flipped tables at me, my concept of studying when she shouted at me was to go to my bed, I lie on my bed, and I flip my textbook. All right, and that's my I did my due diligence lah. But do you feel like the whole idea of not just memorizing but also application? You know,
Yes.
you get your hands dirty, you get to do question typings rather than just recite in your head. Do you think that that second part, that second aspect, is often being neglected?
Of course. I as I was saying lah, physics and math, there is still some memory work that is required, but sometimes the memory work is more of procedural, and the only way to nail down the process and how do you execute the process effectively is by doing. So I have plenty of students. Theoretically, they know what to do for let's say AMath. Theoretically, they know what to do, but because their algebra is poor, they cannot execute out the steps required in order to get the correct answer. So practice is every bit is as important as memory work lah.
Yeah,
of
even
course.
the research has actually shown that the whole hand to brain, motion actually has a
Yeah.
very significant impact in forming long-term memory, and also to develop situational awareness. But I am going to tell you something that, as a tutor, I'm sure you heard of it, but when I hear it, I feel helpless. All right, even after, 15 years in this industry, I feel helpless when I hear it. It's when students who are otherwise very well prepared, they do their due diligence, they do their revision, they get their hands dirty, they are doing all the questions. They go to exam and then they came back with less than good results as expected. And quote unquote, what they say, the reason here is they have brain fog. They say they blank out.
Yeah.
So how do you? I know I'm curious. I never really asked you this, but how do you actually deal with such a comment?
I personally feel that I'm quite a vanilla person, and I'm quite a vanilla teacher. I feel. I think that when students tell me that they black out, number one, of course, we can identify it's primarily due to stress. They never prepare enough. So my solution to them is you practice more, and you practice more in a way that mimics the exam conditions as closely as possible.
I think that is very, very important.
Yeah. So as far as possible, I don't know if you have the resources, if you're able to go to where your exam venue will possibly be held, and then put yourself on a time practice. Maybe within the allocated amount of time, do 1.5 papers instead of one paper.
Do we have to get down to the final detail, like wear the school uniform, tie the hair, put the IC on the top right corner with the candidate?
I think ideally, if that is possible, right?
Okay.
I would recommend that lah, but I know that it's a bit stupid lah.
So my student actually told me that the reason why he or she actually felt like there was some brain fog moment is because when you place them isolated in a room to do the test, in a time constraint, they're fine. But when they're in a huge crowd, the rustling of papers, how the pen is actually writing, there's inevitably it creates that kind of a stressful,
there's a certain
competitive-
atmosphere,
yes,
right?
the
There's a
atmosphere.
certain vibe that is happening within the exam hall that you
So,
cannot
so
avoid.
what if students are allowed to bring earplugs into the exam hall? Do you think that will help to block out all this unwanted and filter all this noise?
Oh, I feel that this is something which I don't know is unprecedented. I do feel that because earplugs, as long as they're just earplugs, not
Yes,
not
and
AirPods,
not AirPods with
not
the
noise
transmitting,
cancelling,
yep, yep, yep.
yeah. So if it's earplugs, I feel that it should be okay lah. Yeah.
All right, so I think the nature of examination could also be more better administered if, let's say, it was in a smaller setting rather than like all the Sec 4s or the Sec 3 come to the exam hall to do it. They are done on a class level. Maybe they are in a more familiar environment. We keep more variable constant, so that
Yeah.
the only difference in this case here is the degree of preparation and degree of exposure to the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. So whatever you just talked about just now, those are really the hard effort of revising. All right. You know, you put in the time, you grind out and all. But do you believe that there is actually a softer side to the preparation for examination, like pertaining to diet and sleep habits? And
I
exercise?
sleep definitely will affect your performance. I mean, I feel that definitely for myself, even when I'm working, if let's say I have work to clear and then I sleep at really late hours in the day, then because the next day I have to send my kid to school as well, so I end up sleeping like 4 or 5 hours. My performance for the day, even when solving questions, right, will be severely impacted.
So
I
there's
will
some-
make more careless
So
mistakes.
some cognitive impairment. over
Yes,
there lah.
yes.
Okay.
Even if I feel fine, like I feel okay, I feel alert, but I think subconsciously I will tend to make more careless mistakes. Like maybe the plus and minus will disappear along the way, or maybe some number I will write wrongly. You know.
But this is actually kind of like, I feel is unavoidable to a certain extent for students who are like trying to cram in a 48-hour schedule into a 24-hour schedule.
Yes. I don't know. I feel that students nowadays, right, the schedule seems tighter. Like, do you remember yourself being so busy when you were in
Okay,
secondary?
I'm a little bit of a odd one out because I'm the kind that after school is done, if there's no CCA, my priority here, I'm more like a nerd lah. My priority here is to, you know, go home as fast as
study.
my stubby fat legs can bring me back, and then I will clear off my homework before then I allowed myself to take lunch and shower and all. Like I want to, I don't know, there's this gnawing feeling that hey, there's still some work that's not done. That
home
really
and do.
bothers me. I want to just clear it out.
I don't
I'm the kind that, you know, during recess, if let's say, you know, I don't want to go for recess and work has already been given prior to recess, I will stay back and just to do my work.
Oh, you're very studious.
But that's not because I'm studious, okay? I have to make this very clear to the audience. It's because I don't like that I have things to do. I want to feel free. You know, yeah. So, I'm just like any other normal person. I'll believe that if let's say time is actually available to me and there's nothing to do, I will gladly just sit in front of the screen and our time about PlayStation 1. I will grind out all the games on PlayStation 1 if I can. But the thing here is, when you get older, you start to realize that you have more choices you have to make. You know, your friend jail you out for some late night supper, you know, and you want to study, but you also want to be hanging out in your social circle and all. And you decided, I won't say it's wrong or right to go out with your friends, and when you come back, you realize that you still have like X number of chapters to clear. Now, for you, will you still prioritize sleep, or you will, as I heard from some students, they will sleep and they set alarm at awkward timing. I'm talking about 3, 4 a.m.
right?
Yeah. And then they wake up and then they study in a very groggy manner, and then they say, okay, I completed my dues. Like, it feels a bit unnatural to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your sleeping habits itself, you know, this is really just from research. There are actually 4 stages here. All right. So stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and 4. But the most critical stage over here, all right, without going into too much detail for stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, is the REM stage. All right, that's the rapid eye motion stage. And this is the part that is where your body has a certain kind of housekeeping. All right, it's like whatever you study, they will store in your long-term memory, and then this has a very huge impact on how you actually learn and how your memory actually forms from there. But this REM itself, it comes in, you want to take a guess, how long does it take from stage 1 to REM? How long do you think it takes before
Well, I have no feeling for this. Is it the time when you dream? So
yes, it's time that you
it's the
dream.
dreaming time. So if it's the dreaming time, then I suppose maybe around 45 minutes like that.
Okay.
20 to 45 minutes.
Okay, so actually the time for us to hit that, right, is at the 90th minute.
Oh.
Yeah. So, you know, my spouse have actually told me that sometimes, you know, we are parents of young kids once here, all grown up. Sometimes when kids are too tired, they cry because they overtired. They
Yes.
cannot sleep.
Yes.
Yeah, so my spouse ever told me that, you know, when it's time for us adults to sleep and then we just like, poof, just fall asleep like that, it's also not good. That means we are already very, very, very tired already. So, and sometimes, you know, we have bad habits. We drink caffeinated drinks.
Yes.
Or, you know, I'm guilty. I sneak in a little bit of some computer action games and everything before I sleep. And you're so excited. So when it's time to sleep, you have trouble sleeping. And then before you know it, 8 a.m. the alarm sounds. It's time to bring the kids to the school and all. Yeah. So again, for the students who wake up at 3, 4 a.m., they could potentially, because REM, just to be honest with you, as you are going through a ideal 8-hour sleep cycle, all right, there are actually 4 stages of REM. So of course, the greater the frequency of REM, I think experts out there might probably want to comment, all right, will give you a more synergistic effect on trying to form your long-term memory and all from there. So if you cut short all this REM in favor of waking up, before your brain has a chance to process the previous day information, you jam it with something else, and very likely the day before items will be evil that way.
I think there have been some. This is completely based off my memory, but I do believe there are some studies that have shown that Singaporean students are getting less and less sleep, and getting less sleep than ideal lah. And I don't know. I have heard of this push to move school timings to slightly later.
The JC actually
Maybe-
starting, one of the days of JC is actually started at
I think it depends on the JC. I believe Nanyang JC
Okay.
has a slightly later school day, which
Okay.
I believe is fantastic. Yeah. But I do believe that for quite a while already, there has been a push for the school timings to start like half an hour later. And I know that this is not exactly, this is something which is completely off topic, but I'm not sure if you're aware, Singapore is actually in the wrong time zone.
Wait, tell me a bit more about this.
Yeah, Singapore actually is in the wrong time zone. So you notice that other countries, 6 o'clock, right? The sky is light already.
Oh,
So I believe Singapore is set 1 hour. Our time zone is set 1 hour earlier. So at 6 o'clock, everything is still dark.
okay.
And the sun only comes up at 7 o'clock.
Okay, so our nocturnal clock itself, or sleep wake, the circadian rhythm is being affected.
Yes, yes.
But wait, who said it?
I believe there are some historical reasons for this. I'm not 100% sure. I have to do a little bit of research.
Okay.
But I do know that Singapore's clock is set back a little bit
But does
earlier
it have to do
than-
with the equatorial position of where Singapore is?
I do know there is more of a historical reason, like
Okay.
related to our merger and separation from Malaysia.
Okay.
I
So
think
you're telling me my entire life,
Yeah.
my 7 a.m. school day is actually actually like a 6 a.m. like that?
Yes. So when kids wake up at 6 a.m. right, when I wake up my son at 6:30,
actually
it's
like
actually
5.
5:30.
Okay.
Like that's even
So
earlier.
wait, so that means tonight when I go back and I'm going to play computer game, I can play 1 hour more, right? Because it's set one hour behind from there.
And I think in some ways this saves daylight. But in other ways, like the psychological feeling of you wake up to daylight is different. Right? You feel less alert when you go to school. When everything is still dark. You know, I feel that there is a psychological difference.
You know, and Viren was speaking about sleep deprivation, all right,
Yeah.
by choices and all. Do you know that actually when you are not sleeping well, especially you are having some late night cramping of the studies and all, your body actually, you start to feel more peckish than you should be.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm guilty of this. You know, if I hang out
Yeah.
late, I'm playing games, or
You
I'm
just want to snack, right?
I want a snack. And not just any snack, you know, we're not talking about carrot sticks, celery sticks. No, we want something
Like
savory,
potato
crunchy.
chip,
Yes.
yeah.
So actually this whole thing actually has a biological explanation to it. So when we are staying up late, our body is experiencing stress. It's very much akin to when you are in the primitive time being chased by a T-Rex. Yeah, okay, we're not fighting T-Rex in the middle of the night, all right? But when you're stressed, your body releases cortisol. And the cortisol that is being released here will actually disrupt this very intricate yin and yang balance of this hormone called leptin and ghrelin. Right? One of these hormone controls hunger, one of these hormone actually controls satiety. So when they disrupt this thing here, you start to feel peckish. And the biological aspect of this is, if you may imagine if you're being chased by T-Rex, right, you want to store as much
as
nutrients,
more energy, right?
You know, and
Yeah.
I want fast energy, high in glucose. I want all the insulin and the glucose spike so I can, I can run faster and everything from there. So all this late night binging and everything is actually going to cause weight gain. I think the last thing on a kid's mind, on a student mind, is that, oh no, I'm going to put on 10 kg when I'm cramping for my studies and all. But studies have shown, I mean, if you go through your entire academic lifetime all the way up to when you graduate at 23, all right, I would say that you spend a quarter of your time disrupting your eating cycle, you get weight gain. And I don't know if everyone can see, we all have this little pouch over here. So this weight gain whole thing is being exacerbated when you hit into adulthood. You have your kids, and then with kids, definitely, you're not going to have very,
The
very
cycle
good
is
regular sleep.
all thrown off. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, but nonetheless, all right, if we are going to eat, all right, and assuming we're going to eat like normal meals like breakfast as well as, your lunch and all, there are definitely some general preference, right? For food. Why don't you make a wild guess? If you want a breakfast for champions, what will you eat if you're going to have exams later?
I'm guessing everybody nowadays talk about this slow release kind of carbohydrates, right? So we are talking about I don't know, maybe like oats or some of the more complex kind of carbohydrates, if I'm not wrong.
So it takes a bit longer time to break down. Yeah, you're right. All right. So this actually slows down the insulin that's being released, and that will also means that the glucose spike you're going to experience is going to be more gradual rather than be more spiky itself from there. All right, and that is more for the energy sustainable part of things. But if you want a full satiety, I ever in an examination, because the exam hall is very, very quiet, and then suddenly there's this very awkward growling of my tummy, when I was doing the examination and all. And I need something that has bulk, some satiety. All right, so things like protein itself is a very good source. We're talking about things like yogurts and eggs. But there has ever been once it backfired. I think I have some, I think I'm generally okay to lactose products, but I think the night before, I spam an entire tub of yogurt. I tell myself it's probiotics. So I end up having the runs during the examination from there.
Oh no.
Do you have any like, we are Asians, Chinese particularly, some superstitious. So my grandmother used to feed me in the morning 1 hot dog with 2 eggs. I'm not done yet, and Chinese dumpling, 粽子. So you put it together, 粽子 with 1 hot dog and 2 eggs is 包粽100. Okay, can you imagine that? And you know what? I'm a very I have a very good appetite, so I'll gladly just take that out. But as I'm walking to school itself, right, I think the only thing that is 包粽 is the 包粽 sleepiness. In the morning, I'm like very, very tired and everything. Does your parents fed you any like superstitious food to boost your
But okay. My parents is the very standard. They buy into the whole advertising. My mom will keep buying for me brands.
Oh, the chicken essence.
Yeah. The day before the exam, right? She'll buy me 1 chicken essence for me to go drink. And I don't know if it's placebo or what. Like when I drink, right, I actually feel a bit more alert, but not as effective as coffee.
Okay.
But still.
Wait. How old did you partake in coffee before examination?
Wow. I think I started drinking coffee mainly in JC.
JC. Okay,
Yeah.
that's quite
JC
quite okay lah. I
Yeah.
believe now the kids are getting younger already with their coffee intake. Caffeine intake.
Yeah.
So-
I know like 15, 16 years old, they will start to drink coffee.
Yeah, I mean, this is really totally off topic, but Straits Times actually did an article on caffeine intake and the danger of this thing called, I think, caffeine alcohol mix or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
All right. But wow, that's actually very scary. But you mentioned about your mom involvement over here. So I think we do want to finally talk about it. I mean, kids at different level, the primary, the secondary, and JC, parents are going to be part and parcel and integral to their arsenal of preparations. So I think this is really open up for a lot of insightful conversation. So how do you think the parents should be involved in different levels of the child's education?
Okay, so speaking from my personal experience, when I was in primary school, my mom was the one who helped me set up the study routines.
Okay.
Helped me at least make sure that at this particular time after I come home from school, I'm studying, I'm doing my homework. sometimes my mom will even help me through like English, math, and science. And I think most parents out there, there is some form of help rendered from on the primary school front, at the very least for math, right? So I think for primary school, I personally feel that the parents is there to set up the routine properly for the kid lah.
But will they also perform like the rod as well when the kids is not
Oh, when I was in secondary school, my parents definitely caned me.
in secondary school?
Oh, sorry.
Primary.
When I was in primary school, my
okay.
parents definitely caned me.
Because you did not
Yeah.
adhere to the study schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so or maybe if I made a careless mistake, I remember my dad would like cane me, and then my exam script will be a little bit wet because
Okay.
of like the tears that
Tears
will
drop.
fall on the exam script.
So in the primary school level, the parents' role is more of an iron fist rather than a passive fist lah. I would say.
I think nowadays, of course, parents won't cane the kids lah.
Okay,
But at
okay.
least to ensure that the routine is set up.
Okay, but this calls for parental involved, and that start as soon as the kid is back home after school. The parents has to be of a supervisory role, right? But now with those kind of a dual income,
Right? That's a bit difficult, right?
So this task, do you feel that parents will actually relegate to like after school services
Yes.
or to tuition centers
yes,
and everything? Okay.
Yeah, I do have a couple of my son's schoolmates who actually go to after school
care.
Yeah.
Yeah. But any just insight, does those after school care actually have a disciplinarian or sort of like a supervisory person that will ensure
I am aware that there are programs that are being conducted in the after school care, but I don't know what the regular routine is like because I personally don't send my kids to after school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is more for the primary school side of things. So, leading up towards primary 6 and all, will you as a parent start to take on more of a chauffeur role as well? You ferry them
Yes, of
to
course,
classes and all?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, even as it is, I ferry my son to school and then back home when I can. But I think even after school, outside of school, my wife sometimes brings my kids and myself when I'm available, chauffeurs them to like the enrichment classes.
So
Yeah.
do you agree that in the primary school part, the parents really play a very pivotal role?
Yes,
The
yes.
parents are still
So
very
important.
central
Yes,
to it.
yes.
All right, so if you got to Sec 1 and Sec 2, are you going to, release or relinquish some of your control?
Of course. But of course, I do feel that as a parent, it's my responsibility to eyeball the kid as well, right? To at least make sure that he's adhering to the routines that he has set up, or my son or my daughter have set up for themselves. Yeah.
My mom very much, I don't know if this is the right verb, but very much gave up on me in Sec 2. She's the kind that you want to study, you don't want to study, very Asian. Okay, you want to study, don't want to study, I don't care. But make sure you are ready to face the music when the results are out from there. So she will kind of want to empower me, but I don't know, boys generally mature a bit later than female. I don't know if you do this hardball, you play hardball with your child. You say like, you know what, I'm not going to care. You want tuition, you tell me, I give to you. You don't want, it's your problem. And then you don't get the streaming in Sec 3, Sec 4, that's your problem. Would you ever consider that kind of, I throw it back to you kind of
No. I speak from personal experience because when I was in Sec 1, Sec 2, I was quite a lazy kid. So I would tell my parents like, oh, okay, never mind, I can do it myself. But then I never do my work, I never go and study. Yeah, so that's why my Sec 2 results were quite terrible. I didn't make it into pure science because of this.
So your parents rain hell on you after that?
So I think only leading up to the end of year exam, then I started to realize that, oh no, this is really getting too late already. If let's say I don't do something now, then I will not be able to do my desired subject combi when I go up to.
But this
Sec lah.
this method
So-
of realization is more of like baptism by fire. You cannot burn first,
yes,
right?
yeah. So I think for myself, as a parent, it is my responsibility to see like long term. Is this good for my child or is it not good for my child?
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So Sec 3 and Sec 4, I think then really quite hands-off by then already, right?
Still some level of involvement lah.
But
I feel.
when do you really think that this is really your studies, you do it yourself, kind of?
I think when they reach JC at the
JC.
very least. Because in JC, like even if they don't make it in JC, there are always options that are available, right? But I think for secondary school, everybody has to go through secondary school. And I think the paths for secondary school are, if you make it into like let's say your G1, G2, or G3 level, I think you can promote up, but it's hard to promote down.
Okay.
It's hard to promote down. So of course, even if let's say you don't do well for your O levels, of course there are still options. But I think the options within within what you currently have, the system like promoting down to like let's say G2 will be quite difficult, especially if you are already in certain schools which do not offer the subject at a G2
Then
level.
what, you
in
have to
the
transfer
first
out of
place.
that school
Yes.
to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
and
so
all.
there'll be a lot of different transitions that you have to make, social transitions, which obviously we don't want it lah.
Okay. So I think today this whole topic here, I think we barely scratched the top of the entire hill when we talk about exam revision. I think at the end of the day, there are some very fundamental part that I think we can agree that I think your sleep, your diet. We haven't really talked so much about exercising, but I'm sure exercising could also play a very important part in the
de-stress, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, some might think de-stressing will be through games and all. I think moderation is fine. But for me, after this many years, I'm still a bit of a traditional person. I am still subscribing to the whole model of consistency rather than cramping. But we didn't talk into great lengths, but for things like humanities where memorization is there, I think there will be some time-sensitive way to revise, maybe closer to the exam, then you really commit towards memory for that. Yep. So do you think, all right, coming back towards the end of the podcast, do you think this is a tough take or a big take thing for the discussion for today?
Well, considering that my history with study has always been a little bit chaotic, I personally feel that the whole idea of teaching somebody to study and guiding kids to study now, for me, I see the students' struggles. I see my own struggles as well. I personally feel it's not an easy thing to deal with, so I think it's big.
You think it's a big take?
Yeah.
I see this whole entirety of studying for examination in a more macro view. All right. If you tell me, today about studying for Singapore examination, I think it's a very hectic kind of environment. Things are very fluid. Things are changing. How you're being examined is changing. But to answer, all right, I feel in a broader macro view, I think this is a tactic. Important for me. Now, to explain, I want students and also for listeners to know that this form of studying, consistency, hard work, I think it brings about a very raw and primitive kind of a reward system, which you put in your due effort, you will be rewarded. Whether is it through grades, all right, or is it through the development of character? I feel that once you're past your academic life, all right, and if you can apply this particular concept of effort to sort of like a reward kind of a mindset, it will help you in many facets of your life. I think things like parenthood, you put in effort for a child, you foster the emotions, you have a particular new hobby, you put in the time for it. I think all this comes back down to this whole studying process in Singapore. You want to imbue this particular character to them. Yep. We definitely want to know how you feel about this examination part, and I think at the time where this podcast is out, I think some has really pivoted into preparation for their national examinations. On TSA, we do wish you all the best. There's a saying with my student, I never wish for them good luck, because I believe that if you are prepared well enough,
You don't need luck,
you
right?
don't need the luck.
Yeah.
All right, just deliver and do your best from that. Okay, see you.
Thank you.